First of all, I think what we should do is just go down the list, introduce yourself, tell us what you do, company, dealership, and how long you've been in the biz.
My name is Stefan Gronberg. I'm with Hannity Audi Jacksonville and Audi Orange Park. Been in the business 21 years now. Executive general manager over both stores, run the operations. Happy to be here.
Welcome.
Terry Shabesta, CEO of FlexPath. 36 years in the industry, back when it was dial-up bulletin boards and CompuServe. And those who have gray hair will remember that, and those who don't will not. So I am a dealer, a lender, and a fintech innovator. Actually, a alumni of the FBI Citizens Academy, a member of the FBI InfraGuard, and work a lot with fintech innovation and be careful what you say here. And actually president of the National Vehicle Leasing Association, so a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'd like to remain anonymous at this point. No, I'm Jason Mahoney. I'm the director of marketing for Carter Myers Automotive based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, and I started this year makes 20 years ago with American Honda on the OEM side as a district sales manager with them, but been in automotive in one way or another for the last 20 years.
I'm Christian Jorn, founded and am the CEO of Remora in 2008. So we've been doing car dealer website for 17 years, and we serve a lot of big, good operators.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Just a little history here. So Terry, when I mentioned earlier, I started my career off at Record Automotive. I spent a year in retail, and then I went to commercial sales. I used to buy cars from Terry's, he would buy cars for me for his leasing company. Yes. That's how long I've known you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was 6 grandkids ago for me.
That was in 2000.
It was before that. It was in the late 90s.
Late 90s.
And then Jason is in one of my digital 20 groups, and of course, Carter Myers and a couple of my other ones too. So, and Christian, I just met you back in the Client and Friends event, so thanks for being here. And I obviously just met Stefan. Anyways, I'm going to start off with a controversial subject right now. We're going to end this thing in controversy. You love that? So a couple years ago, a friend of mine came to me and says, you know what? He says, I think we're going to move towards an industry where we don't have dealer websites anymore. And I'm really curious what you think about that, because that really turns us on our head, doesn't it? Because everything we've been talking about has been around websites. So who wants to start?
I mean, I'll start just because it's near and dear to my heart right now, and I think my buddy on the last panel would agree. I just recently went through Audi changing our website for a provider to themselves. So the OADD platform, well, if we go no website, I don't know how it's going to work, because I'm just telling you right now, we flipped. We were averaging 41,000 visitors a month. We dropped to 19,000 immediately. I flipped back. I'm still dealing with it. It's been since September 29th when I flipped back to my dealer.com website. And we're still barely at 25,000 visitors.
Wow.
So that's how much we went from one website to another and went back to our old website with everything still on there. And Google just ripped us to shreds.
Great.
So I mean, so that's just the online, portion of it.
Yeah.
But my sales manager's here right now, and he can attest. We were selling pretty consistently this year. Has been a little low for used cars, but we're selling 88 average used cars per month, and the last 2 months we have not broke 70. So and then new cars, customers are going to know you're an Audi dealership. They're still going to come to you, but on your used car business, it's been hard.
Yeah. I liken not having dealer websites to sort of like Waymo, right? Kind of the same analogy, right?
I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, I don't either. But it is an interesting subject, and I already had someone say, no, we can't do that. Terry, what do you think?
I'll take a line from Doc Brown on Back to the Future. Where we're going, we don't need websites. And why? If you think about generative AI and what's being created, your customers are going to start interacting with you, not on your website necessarily, but phone, email, text first, possibly. And from there, it takes over the whole experience. It's not about them surfing your site on SRPs. It's communicating one-on-one with your AI, right? And it will walk that customer through. And to give you an example of that, we don't create AI, right? I'm going to have my lender hat on for the most of this session, okay? And what we look at is how can we help dealers with lending and pre-qualification. And what we've been able to do is partner with AI companies that interact directly with the consumer and then use our API to facilitate the answers for like credit pre-qualification, identity verification. So it's actually interacting with our product in the background, right? Mm-hmm. So the facing is AI.
So you're an advocate for it, so go ahead.
Well, it's not about being that, it's where it's going. I really do think that's where it's going. And you know, over the last couple of days, this has been, you know, phenomenal. And it's like everybody who went to NADA or AFSA and everything since then, three main themes: AI, fraud prevention, and consumer affordability, right? So those are the big topics. And today and yesterday, it's moving fast.
Yeah. What do you think, Jason?
I think the very thing we're talking about going away was something that dealers sort of resisted in the beginning anyway, of like this digital showroom. So right now it's kind of hard for us to think of it not being around, but then there was a time when people really weren't open to it. So I think whatever's next is sort of where we're at now. I don't know if it's an agent to an agent relationship and there really is no website and it's just passing of information between a consumer's agent and the dealership. But I think we'd be naive to think that it's just going to be the way that it is now. And because websites sort of and the internet sort of changed a lot of industries, automotive very heavily in particular. And to think that it's just going to stay that and not evolve into whatever is next that we maybe can't even quite fathom now. But I do think it's probably closer to what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, Christian, in your website business, what do you think?
We're growing. I don't think people are going to start using a terminal instead of a browser to search or to visit websites. I think it's hard to imagine a team page, your inventory merchandising through a ChatGPT. A lot of us use AI agents, and so there's kind of this bias that happens where, oh, everybody's doing this. I think about how does Shift exist, and their
Shift
Digital.
SHIFT?
Yeah, Shift Digital. Now, their big promise to the factories that they work for is reporting across all sectors and all the different makes, and they have more data to share. And so we pay attention to those reports. In their last report, they looked across all their data and saw 0.04% of traffic coming from AI. So we looked at our data across the fleet and saw basically the same. So if you're going to turn off your website, you're going to walk away from 99.95% of your traffic. That's not me saying that. That's Shift Digital saying that, but I'm saying it too. I think the most exciting thing about all this conversation about AI, because to me it's just plumbing. I've never seen so much interest in like what's going on beneath the scenes. And so I'm really hoping that the takeaway is to take a closer look at what's going on beneath the surface. I think the closer you look, the more you're going to realize how decrepit your website is. And so we're excited for the future for that reason.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was in a presentation with an OEM 2 weeks ago, and David Steinberg was presenting with me, and he talked about the plumbing. Our industry does not have good plumbing. We got to figure that plumbing thing out, because that's obviously the data plumbing, right? What do you think about this? And I'm going to go to Jason on this one. As a dealer, and every conversation's been about AI and compliance with that. But I was talking to Malcolm Thorne from FlexPath, and he told me, he says that every dealer in the country right now is in violation of some type of privacy act in regards to AI. And as a dealer, this is one of those turf wars that's happening within this. Is like there's a fight for the website, and then there's a fight with FlexPath, or so the fight with the OEM. Everyone's vying for those eyeballs, but has anyone really given it strong consideration about the AI compliance, the legality of what we're doing with these websites and the use of AI?
I think it's evolving, and I think in terms of, they're probably right. There's probably a lot of things, because there's so many things that we allow to be put on our websites, or to your point about the turf war, the manufacturers require, or things like that, where we have, all these chat and all these different things that are collecting information, but I don't think it's been consolidated in a way that we're following every guideline for privacy, and it's a big concern when it comes to stuff like that, because it is evolving quickly, and but it's all the plumbing part of it, right, where all these things don't talk to one another. So maybe we did do it correctly on one of the tools or widgets on our website, but we didn't on another, and would be in violation because of that. But it's the fragmentation that kind of scared me, how many different tools and widgets and things that are on the websites that may collect some form of data, and us not really having our arms around what happens from there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Terry's already touched on the issues around fraud, but Christian, I'm really curious what you think about this issue with AI compliance and privacy. And
AI is really just another form of automation, which we've had for a long time. And a lot of the things that are being talked about as AI right now are really just automation. You have had this going on for over a decade at least, and you're just seeing like a consumer display layer kind of pop up over top of it. People have no idea how tracked we are. Your eyeballs are tracked when you're looking at your phone. They're targeting advertising based on your pupils enlarged when you saw something. Your whole social media feed is basically already trained to you. It's really not new. It's just I think people are starting to wake up to the importance of their data. I think, we have spent 2 days talking about AI, and no one has mentioned quantum compute. All of compute is about to change. About 2 years ago, Google claimed to have broken quantum computing. And everybody's like, well, if Google says that, but it couldn't be verified. So people for 20 years have been saying they break quantum compute, but then they can't verify it. Well, last week, Google has verified quantum compute. Every single thing about compute is about to change. That's going to have much more impact on our lives than AI. You're going to have quantum computers training models.
Yeah.
So the AI is peanuts.
So another aspect of the turf war for websites, and this really kind of falls into perhaps what Evan might be dealing with, but you saw that notice in decline in traffic, right? and you said to yourself, okay, I've got a situation where I'm running paid search, and I've got an increase from last year, 2024, the zero-click traffic was at 59%. 1 year later, that number has jumped to 74% per the Cox Automotive ClairVoicy study. That's significant. And someone mentioned Alphabet earlier and Google, and they've got all this revenue tied up in and they've got all this paid search money that that are not getting anymore. But have you seen an impact on that turf war within your dealership regarding your paid search budgets if you're running them?
So we, about a year and a half ago, we basically have cut down our paid search to negligible amount. We spend money on like dealer, and if someone wants service, this and the other. But as far as paid search for VDPs and all that, we spend more money on on VIN targeting, retargeting, and items like that, such as lot links, for example. But we have focused majority of our efforts on SEO information on our website that really has elevated our click-throughs naturally, where people end up on our website anyways, and have been so successful doing that that we don't have to spend the money on them, because yes, I agree with you. I saw that, back in the day, the rule of thumb was if you're not spending $10,000 on your used car pay-per-click, that you weren't going to have a good month, right? And this is a guy that's telling you I've spent zero, for the last year and a half, 2 years.
It's hard to compete with the third parties too, right?
Correct. Well, that's the thing, is that you're spending 10 grand, they're spending 10 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Good luck, right?
Now, they have the whole country's inventory, but they're still spending a lot more money than you have.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Jason, what are your thoughts on this significant increase in zero-click traffic?
Yeah, well, we definitely see it, and we actually just went through a pilot with Reunion that was here earlier, but and looking at how to kind of show up in AI overviews and things like that, because there's so much. You mentioned like 70% drop in that, and I know they had some stats around when an AI overview is shown, in automotive specifically, the click-through rates were down like 40 some odd percent, and it's probably closer to 70 now, but that people were getting a lot of the information they wanted when they were provided an AI overview. So how do you combat that? And I think it's why a lot of us are probably at a place like this, is trying to figure some of that out. I think the gentleman from Horizon shared some good ideas of things that they're doing, and but it's real, and I know my wife is a classic example that uses ChatGPT like Google, like a lot of us would use Google, and she said, well, just ChatGPT, where it used to be like Google was like Kleenex, right? It was like, just Google it or just give me a Kleenex. It was like the generic thing that covered search, but now it's getting fragmented. And I think you're right. I think the numbers are still kind of small. Maybe you mentioned how much of it or the percentage of traffic that might be coming from.
Zero.
Yeah, it's very, but it doesn't mean people aren't using that to gather information and potentially end up in a zero-click environment that you're talking about, Shaun, where they got whatever information they needed and they never hit the website. So it's part of why I'm here, is trying to learn how to be ahead of some of that, because it's real, it's happening, and it's only going to increase most likely.
Yeah. Christian, one of the things that I'm really curious about, if you're seeing this in your world, is the number of customers that are not actually shopping for your make and model now, but they're actually shopping the customer experience, which is another sort of turf war that's going on, because it's happening not necessarily on your websites, but it's happening amongst everyone's websites, right? What are you seeing in that regards?
Yeah, so I agree with that 100%. You are definitely being judged by your website experience. Mm-hmm. And modern search is really a battle of the webmaster. Mm-hmm. Google has a very clear concept of original thought even. So it doesn't really matter if it's written by a human or if it's written by AI, as much as it is this original thinking. If you have tons and tons of pages on your site that are not being engaged with, Google Chrome is the spider now. There's an advanced privacy setting in Chrome that says send usage statistics and crash reports to Google. That setting is checked on by default. It's very hidden. It's in the advanced privacy settings, and they move it every now and then to keep it hard to find even. So 99% of Chrome users are having their data anonymized and sent back to Google in real time. So the engagement, the quality of engagement, scroll, clicks, form fills, they know every single thing that happens on your website regardless of Google Analytics. Think about that. Google Analytics, even all GA4 and all its power and everything, is free. They're tracking so much data that you cannot imagine. They're like, there you go, free.
Nothing's free. Nothing's free.
There's no tricks. You're not going to, trick your way. It really comes down to, are you providing a transparent, clean, good user experience? And Google is rewarding that. So preferential treatment in search comes down to your website provider. It comes down to what's going on beneath the surface. And it comes down to how things are organized. Are you making it easy for them to understand what's happening on your website? I mean, these are the things that are the most important when we're talking about SEO and visibility and organic search. And it's important to realize, too, that 95% of the traffic in volume across all industries is organic.
Yeah.
Everything that Google has tried to do with images and all that stuff, it only gets up to 5%. So if your paid traffic is half of your traffic, you're not ranking well. And you can't overspend your way to papering over a poor website experience, and you can't paper over a poor built website. I mean, you literally have dealers trying to move $200 million worth of inventory online. They have a WordPress site. WordPress is 40% of the web. It's 40% of the web because it's free, and it's great for blogs and posting soccer schedules and stuff. It's 0% of the Forbes 500 companies' websites. There's nothing enterprise about WordPress. So providing, using an enterprise solution and provide an excellent experience for customers on mobile and on desktop, which that's actually really important too, because we do our kind of browsing on our phone. And so you can look at your statistics and go, oh, desktop's dead. We actually do our shopping, like that lead comes in on the desktop. Mm-hmm. So like during lunch, shop on the phone, but when the leads come in, it's later at night with your whole setup and you're doing research and all this stuff.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah,
I don't buy any reason.
Right.
I just read it on that. That's interesting. And so what you just said was interesting. That because most of our dealer sites are WordPress, and yet the Fortune 500 companies don't even do that.
They're not going to choose free.
Wow.
I mean, you could set up a car dealer website with your nephew in an afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what is I think we've used this word clean multiple times. We were talking about clean data. Now we're talking about clean websites. What's a clean website mean to you? And what would be an example of a site that's congested, that needs like mucus remover from it because it's got so much junk on it?
So to me, going back to the customer experience, speed.
Speed?
Websites that are taking a long time to load because you have so much stuff working on the background that no one can see. I mean, to me, that's the worst thing you can have. Second, I would say excessive amount of pop-ups. Like every single, it doesn't matter if it's in the car business or selling shoes. I feel like the pop-ups have just become like this. Everyone immediately, here's a discount. So I want your email, text this code and we'll give you 15% off, and that just seems like that's just the norm now. But that ruins the customer experience. But if I was going to say the number one thing though is speed.
Speed. Okay.
I mean, I think back in the day when we were used to like, dial up or regular, slow internet, you were conditioned that, okay, this is going to take a little bit. Let me go get a coffee and I'll just watch it, but now you want it now. And if a website is slow, you're going to your competitor because you just can't, you don't have the patience for it anymore.
Interesting. So Jason, we belong to the digital marketing operations 20 group. We've added that word operations into there. And digital marketing has been mostly about websites, right? What other things would you say would constitute having a clean website versus a dirty one, besides what was already said?
I say this knowing full well we're guilty of some of this on our own sites if anybody audits us. But I think you nailed it with speed, because there's a lot of data behind the faster the site is, the conversion rates and things like that. If you look into some of that. So I think speed is part of it, but then it does come down to what are you trying to load? What are all these things that are trying to happen that are slowing it down? I'm sure you have some insight on speed. But I think it's like, is what a consumer would want to do easy to find, and so the calls to actions and stacks, and I think I was telling you.
Please tell that story. It's beautiful.
So when Shaun asked me to be up here, I said I had an interesting story about our friends at Shift Digital. We have several Subaru stores, and they come in and periodically and talk to us about some recommendations, and they have yet to come in yet and not have any recommendations. So that I guess they're good at finding things for us to work on. But our Shift Digital rep came in, and one of the recommendations was to change our CTA stack and put, whether it was get today's price first or value your trade, some order they wanted them in. So we said, okay, we'll try that out and see how that goes. So we changed it, and it wasn't the next visit, but the visit after that, 60 days later, he came in and his recommendation was to change them, but it was back to what we had it to 60 days before that. So, that we do get a lot of help from our manufacturers and some of their representatives through different programs. So that definitely ties into it. I think Audi took a really aggressive approach with what they've done, and they've sort of taken control of the sites. I guess it remains to be seen if they were right or not. Early indications I've heard are a lot of frustrations like you had. But I think a clean site really is about a user experience. And if you think of other sites that you deal with, if you like the interface and how, whether it's Netflix or anything else, there's a lot of science behind what button goes where and those type of things. So I think it's about speed first and foremost, and then, a user experience with really clear next steps or calls to action versus confusing. And sometimes duplicated efforts. We have a way into digital retailing, but this guy also wants to work with Cap One and have that button on there, which sort of does its own thing, and we lose sight of the data going over here. So I think we can crowd that if we let decisions be made sort of unilaterally and don't have a plan as a group, which is something I'm working really hard toward. It's just consistency based on data and what works best, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree 100%. It comes down to control. When you see Amazon, of course, they have control of their whole experience. They don't have a bunch of third-party vendors. And so you have and to your point on speed is the only thing that Google has ever revealed publicly is a part of their search algorithm. That was in 2010 on a webmaster blog. So we've known speed is important. Google provides page speed insights to developers and webmasters. Page speed insights literally gives you instructions and exactly what is wrong with your website. So there's a roadmap even to accomplish that. But then if you don't have control of your website because you have 8 or 10 different third parties on there and every one of them has a different tag manager, every one of those is another piece of JavaScript, oftentimes referencing that third party's server. So now that third party is having a bad day at the office and their servers aren't snappy, and now you're having a problem on your website. So we actually recommend 0 GTM. And alternatively, 1. But it's not uncommon for us to find 8, 10, 12 GTMs on there, and they don't even know who has access to them. This is a huge gaping security hole on your website. And then something's happening with your website, and then, well, you got 8 GTMs on here. These are conflicting. All these third parties don't talk to each other. And so they're all running code that conflicts. And now your poor website company is going, I don't have access to all your GTMs. So we like 0 GTMs. We run all the third-party code through a security review with our engineers, and then we just put the code on the site itself without a GTM. Our dealers really like that because they're in control. So it's something that should really be considered if we're talking about, security, and you've got a bunch of GTMs on there and you don't even know who has access to them. That is a gaping security hole. You're letting third-party companies run code on your site that some of them you don't even work with anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They don't even, it's there. They just forget about it. Yeah. I remember we used to run Screaming Frog on our websites once a quarter just to make sure that we hadn't missed something like that for that reason. Big images, bunch of code, who owns the code, why is it on there? So totally agree with you on that.
The problem with the GTM, though, is that you're not going to see it. All you're going to see is the GTM JavaScript. You're not going to know what it's loading.
Yeah, it's all that other junk, right? Yeah.
Could I jump in here just for a minute, Shaun?
Yeah, I was going to call on you next, but go ahead.
We had a couple comments, follow-ups there. Website, if you're looking at your site, look at it with mobile. Don't show me a desktop. I mean, every demo we see, it's a desktop. Most of your people are not using desktop to look at your site. So it forces you to use your real estate on your phone very carefully. Okay, that's number one. Second thing that I'd like to comment on, a follow-up, was Tim Hayden was up here earlier, and I saw him at Autovate, and he mentioned a stat that 30% of website traffic is bot or fraudulent sources. And I thought about that and was like, wow, okay, that's an eye-opener. That got everybody to sit up straight. But in a personal experience on that, I was involved in an email, I was on an email thread where a number of dealerships had in a matter of 3 minutes, had 200 leads on their legacy pre-qualification web app, the name, address, phone number, like your pre-qualification web app, right? Within 2 minutes, like a couple hundred real names and addresses from all over the country doing pre-qualification. And we worked with some government agency on that and the dealers, and what we believe is happening, and it's happening as we speak right now. Anybody with that type of web app on your website, is they're getting the pre-qualification, the fraudulent bots or fraudulent tries. They're taking that information, if it's pre-qualification, and now they have a name and address and information that they can use in other fraudulent activities. So something that we're helping dealers with that, with identity verification first, and that goes to the clean data part of your website, right? If you have a form and you're collecting name and address, you have no idea who that is, no idea. So it's identity verification first, because when we create a credit qualified lead, I can almost guarantee 100% that that's a real name, a real phone number, and a real address and real credit. And with that, you see higher conversions.
Yeah.
I agree 1,000%. There's a cold war going on with the bots. We take the bot mitigation very seriously. We have an enterprise relationship with Cloudflare that does pretty much the heavy lifting on that, but it's a lot more complicated than just like, hey, I don't want bots, because you got to let Googlebot through, you got to let ImageBots through for Googlebot, you got to let Bing and Yahoo through, and you got to let the AI crawlers through. So that needs to be monitored. That needs to be rate limited. Most of the website providers in the automotive industry are just 100% asleep at the wheel on that. We're blocking lots of Chinese AI scrapers and all kinds of stuff like that, and keeping a close eye on any kind of bot traffic, try to push it to in the middle of the night. And it's just something that's like, doesn't sell. Nobody's trying to buy that. They just don't, until it happens to them. And this is where I'm getting excited about all the AI attention, is like starting to get people to peer under the surface as to what is going on, what's actually going on. I mean, like Dealer Specialties, I remember their sites well. Those were flash movies, and you could have a nice hottie walk right on your website, but that sold like hotcakes, but it literally could not be indexed by Google.
And one real quick thing on the fix that they suggested was CAPTCHA. That is not a fix, okay? If you think CAPTCHA's stopping all your fraudulent leads, no, it's not. So OTP is what we use, one-time passcode. We start with that, so we can verify. It's commonly used in the industry. Experian, Jim can attest that that's one of the better things you can start with. But it's more of a fraud stack, right? We're one piece. There's other layers, and you've heard about it earlier today at the fraud panel. It's not one solution, okay? We're involved with a fraud stack we put together. It's other companies. We're part of it. So collaboration is very important when we're talking fraud, and I don't mean to get off on the AI subject, but fraud is very important.
It's interesting because the Cox automotive study that came out in July indicated that about 25% of the people right now were using a hybrid approach to buying their next car, meaning they were using an online digital retailing platform, they were using the website, and they were talking to the salesperson, and they were facilitating the paperwork and then coming in and taking delivery. The next time around, though, that number is going to go from like 25% to about 75%. So, Terry, you just released a product regarding your used car leasing on there. In regards to digital retailing now, because more people want to lean in that direction, of course, we're opening up the mousetrap, aren't we? I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, now there's so many different ways to extract customer information if you got a bad bot in there. But I'm really curious what you think, Christian, and Terry, what do you think about that? Because you're installing that tool on dealer websites now, right?
Yeah, on dealer websites and marketplaces. And it's all about addressing the consumer affordability issue. No one's been able to do used car leasing at scale. I've talked to some of the OEMs, not going so well with their CPO leasing. I think the platform that we've created with identity verification, credit prequalification, quoting real payments based upon real credit, using a couple of national lenders to start with, that gives us full coverage for both prime, near prime, non-prime, is pretty exciting. And, you know, we're actually looking to work with dealers, whether it's an independent or a franchise, that really lean into used cars. And it's pretty exciting. But affordability, again, that's that and fraud prevention, what we're trying to solve.
Christian?
Yeah, I think this is another area that falls victim to bias. Because we don't buy cars like our customers buy cars. And so we just order them. And then they're like, everybody wants to do this. And so we saw the digital retailing industry just boom like 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whenever it was. And I think it forgets that we're in the people business. The car business is the people business. And so they're like, we're going to sell cars on your website. And then That didn't happen. And then it switched to, well, the DR lead is a better lead. Can't argue with that. The person who just frustrated themselves with your tool for 30 minutes and is still talking to you, that's a good lead. We take a different approach to digital retailing and to just start the conversation. So we don't start them with a form. We say, hey, what do you want to put down? Do you have a trade-in? Okay, what is it? What's your asking price? I don't want to put an automated number on their car. I haven't seen it. And you're only likely to turn somebody off with that number anyway.
You hadn't asked them for their social yet.
Right.
Yeah, most of them are like, hey, scan your driver's license.
That's obviously a non-starter, right? Because the DR solutions, and again, everybody's trying DR. And I know Kevin's done a lot with it in Cox, but, it's when I just mentioned about the lease platform, Lease DXP, we're not competing with digital retailing, right? We're actually helping fill that DR funnel. Because once we get it started, pre-qualified and identity verified, now it goes into the DR platform, whoever it is. Now you're really working a real deal and a real customer.
Yeah. So, and I agree. That's our focus too, is we just want to try to start a conversation happening. We'll see a dealer that's making 40 or 50 DR leads a month, switch to our tool and go to 700 or 800 leads a month.
Wow.
They don't close as high, which is actually proof that it's working. Because we're capturing the people who are, if somebody's motivated by a car, they're going to sell them a car. Mm-hmm. But, from our standpoint, we're trying to capture the people who are more like earlier on in the shopping, just starting to think about it. We want to go ahead and capture their information now. So rather than like do a soft pull and tell them what their credit is and risk them seeing something that they don't agree with, we just tell them to estimate their credit score. And then we take all that, what they're asking for their car, what they've told us their credit score is, and then we give them a payment certificate. And that, of course, creates a lead for the dealer and just starts them down the path, because it's like, oh, man, I love that truck. It's $85,000 is a totally different conversation than I love that truck. It's $750 a month. And, that's what's easy to forget when we just are like, yeah, okay, 85,000, sure. Yeah, I want that truck, because the median income in the U.S. is probably 48 grand or something. Like, people are living on that. And so to them, that payment is everything. Mm-hmm. It's hard for us to kind of get out of that and really, really think as a consumer. We just see income, credit, okay, yeah, you can buy, we're not really thinking, what is it like to live like that? Mm-hmm. And what's important to them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So coming in for a landing here, as we wrap this up, if you had to ask a vendor for anything to help you, first thing, when it comes to your website, what would you ask them to do and not do in 60 seconds or less?
For the website, I think that it kind of encapsulates it all into one. I mean, obviously, being a dealer, we want low funnel, high converting leads that have a phone number, that have contact information, that, it isn't going to ghost me, so that we can have less busy work and more real customers.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think that's what we've been asking for our entire life. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think there's a good combination of the two of them up here that everyone's been trying to figure out since the beginning of time.
That's your mic drop moment. Mic drop moment.
And Jason, same question for you. What would you ask of everybody to help you get this turf war cleaned up?
I guess I'd go back to don't slow my website down, right? Just keep the speed. And I guess I'd say better integration. I guess when information is ingested and we have different partners kind of trying to live in this ecosystem, but none of them communicate. I think if we could find better ways to make the consumer experience better. And also, I think with digital retailing, especially we think about like them buying a car, it's really not it. It's how far do they want to go? Where are they comfortable? But then when they get to the dealership, can they just pick up right there? Or are we asking them about their trade again that they gave us, before they came in and we already told them? So I think just communication across platforms in some way that would really about the user experience. So
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Can I answer that too?
Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I think we have a false choice happening a lot where there's this shiny object or that shiny object. And I think we need to take a step back and what are we really looking to buy? And that's trust. You probably don't need 80% of your third parties. You just need one that you can trust that's going to tell you the truth. Yeah.
I'll close it with this too, that I have longtime friend Chip King, who founded Call Review, told me one time, he says, and this is so relevant today as it is, as it ever was like 10, 12 years ago. We're taking all the newest technology in the world and driving traffic to the oldest technology in the dealership, the phone. Isn't that amazing? And 40% of the time, we don't even pick up the phone, which is astounding. That's another turf war that's going on too, right? Answer the phone.
And most people just show up or call.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
Show up.
But that's because it's the people business. And for, most people, this is a major life decision. And they don't want to do it on their own. They want some consulting back and forth. We spend all this time training salespeople, and then we're going to take that away from them. It just seems silly.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I'm going to call Derek up here if he's in the room. And
Let's give a hand to the Dealer Connect team and everybody on live streaming. Hello, Mom.
Great job, guys. Good job.
Great job. Great event.
All right.